Joshua chapter 6 contains one of the most interesting battles of all of history, the Battle of Jericho. Of course, we know that song, that Joshua fit the Battle of Jericho. It's kind of a fun song, but here we have the text of that song is based on. They are now approaching the first walled city, the first place they're going to conquer as they come into the land. And they're told in verse 3, the most interesting battle plan of all times. It says, "You shall march around the city on all the men of war, circling the city once. You shall do this for 6 days. All 7 priests shall carry 7 trumpets of ram horns before the ark. And then on the 7th day, you shall march around the city 7 times, and the priest shall blow the trumpets. And it shall be that when they make a long blast with the ram's horns, and when you hear the sound of the trumpet, all the people shall shout with a great shout, and the wall of the city will fall down flat, and the people will go up, every man straight ahead." So there was the instructions for the Battle of Jericho. What strange instructions this would be. So get a picture here of this great walled city and the people of war going forth. The go forth along with the Ark of the Covenant and the priests blowing the ram horns. They walk around the city once a day for 6 days, and they don't say a word. Absolute silence, except for the ram horns. And you can imagine the people are on the edge of the wall. They're looking over at this amazing army, going, what are they doing down there? They have to be asking themselves. This is not like anything we've ever seen. There's no siege works. There's no ramming into the walls. There's nobody charging. Nothing. And they're just walking around. They're not saying a word, not a thing. But they're blowing these horns, and they've got this box that some priests are carrying. This is strange. And they do it 1 day and 2 days and 6 full days. They do this every day. And as they were doing that, keep in mind, they knew what Rahab knew back in chapter 2, that there was the one God of the universe. This was the proclamation that God had made, not only in words, but in actions all the way back 40 years earlier to Egypt. God had demonstrated that he was the God of the universe. He had defeated all the gods of Egypt. He had defeated the gods of the Amorites. And their hearts, it says over and over, is melted because of that. But they do not respond in faith to him. Now they march around this city all these times, and they had the opportunity for 6 days for them to repent. For some of them, like Rahab, to express faith in the true God of the universe. But we hear of no witness of anybody doing anything like that except Rahab and apparently some of her family that joined her in her house. And they were spared, but nobody else was. And then on that 7th day, what a strange thing. Most of you know this story pretty well. On the 7th day, they then at that point shout. The trumpets are blown. Verse 16, they actually march around the city that day 7 times. And then they blew the trumpets and shouted. And as they did that, the walls fell flat. Apparently the section where Rahab lived did not, but everything else did. They marched in and they defeated the people of the land and of Jericho, and took all their stuff and destroyed the people who had rejected the Lord, including everything that they had. Only Rahab and her family were rescued because Rahab and her family lived by faith. And there's also a curse placed on this city, rebuilding this city. This is very interesting. It says in verse 26, "Cursed be before the Lord is the man who raises up and builds this city, Jericho. With the loss of his firstborn he shall lay its foundations. With the loss of his youngest son he shall set up its gates." We find in 1 Kings 16:34, many years later, that someone actually tries to rebuild Jericho and does, and loses, just as it says here, his firstborn child and his youngest son, just as the text says. So the curse carried over to the promise. So, but the big picture is Jericho is destroyed in judgment because they refused to repent and turn to the Lord. But Rahab is delivered, not because she was anything special, but because she had actually placed her faith in the one and only God of the universe.